One more time.
Case over framework with an overview.
Sweetie, you want a timer?
Yes.
That's a lot of words.
It is. It's very handy dandy. I like it a lot. Yeah, put it up there.
Everyone good?
Did you send it? No, I don't really.
First, look at the extended tyranny of the self-argument. The only answer to this is that we don't explain why this is true. However, the negative would have us be slaves to ourselves, forcing us to argue that the subjectivity of the sexual violence we have to follow that subjectivity. We have to create this new mode of thought through this burial and constantly pursue that this is the worst form of violence possible. And they enforce rules on the self that must not be broken. This slavery of the self produces authoritarianism towards others, creating an imagined moral high ground of bigotry where you can point your sacrifice you are making so that others feel obligated to follow suit. This type of argument one turns case in proof presumptually that they're not able to solve back up. They have to answer the fundamental assumption level claim before you can give them any sort of risk of solving one of their impacts. Also, it proves that they're going to just replicate their own harms through their force mapping on their body. Now you can move on to the mapping argument. The only answer is that burials is just a mechanism. However, some people don't want to bury this because this forced outing of the violence that's happened to them is problematic for them. It's troubling and traumatizing. It's the reason why a lot of people aren't in this activity who have experienced sexual violence. Now, this is especially bad in the world where they conceded that none of these impacts have happened to them. There's talking about what happened to other people. They never got who gave them the right to start to make these arguments and talk about other people suffering. This makes this violence inevitable in this space and turns their case. Next, the pedagogy remains trapped in the neoliberal space in the university. Their knowledge production amounts to little more than the accumulation of social debt, massive their own complicity in structures of violence and turning case by replicating domination that's UC Berkeley 9. The diversity of the machine is why it wants to absorb the living in the people in the reverse machinery relevant to the departments with the blind anterior and meaning assembly attachment social conduct of the university cultivate this cozy relationship with the capitalist discourse of the research programs play their own role of co-opting the continue with the racial potential. This university providing from its precautionary lectures on race and gender while the power ways the invisible net which contain the natural lives and all the national universities a great ground of liberal good the intention of mediocrity and opportunity quality democracy we grains our flesh our labor our debt and our skills. This is social cliche that I think we're going to be our action and we'll never touch them become the constants of the movement. We remain permanently barricaded with in the prescribed identity categories. Our course will be dependent on limited facial recognition built between us. We are students of color, queer students of color, our faculty, our gender, our women student faculty, each with their own place, time, and giving meaning. Thankfully, each group gets their own designated burial plot. And next framework overview. Extend Bill 83, the one EC refused to instrumentally pass topical policy action. Our call for policy imitation is not succumbing to the state, but rather a productive mobilization. Another answers assume this to defer to specificity. We are controlling uniqueness of the debate itself. The debate is nothing more than political theater. Just as the ballot cannot provide truth, we're actually solving the impacts I said by the harm scenario. There's nothing in the one EC that can ever control the mass and how they perceive the affirmative because a debate is just a game. We read what we need to win, prep who we want, and strike who we don't. It's never, competition is inevitable. It's only the question of what's next. Debate is akin to a black hole of political representation where every description of the world is not only possible necessary. Playing the debate game as it is removes us from being the subject of real politics, letting us hide within the states so we can challenge the systems of sexual violence without ceding to the political to the right. Only our framing solves by the visibility of hiding within the state protects true intention and ensures safety. Now, they're probably going to come up here and try to say it's like, well, we have to change the debate space. However, that's impossible in the Beaujard evidence. That's published in Masses. You can look to all the different critiques that have been tried around before. We never change the space. The PRL would laugh at the type for affirmative they're trying to read here. Now, subjectivity is bad, assuming that the ballot can resolve these questions by ideological baggage are entirely counterproductive. The app pretends that post-round we can become more responsible subject to perfectly aligned in any way that they isolate. This is what we call tyranny itself. You can codify the Beaujard on one card that I just extended. Now, there is no link to any of their answers. None of them assume the negative. The app is a criticism of this like patriarchy. Not only the political limitation, but how, not a political limitation of how to solve patriarchy. Impacts are relevant in a world where there is no interlink between their actual affirmative and the plain solving a system. All your arguments about how it's possible for the one you see to happen within the state only bolsters your argument to protect the visibility gets stamped out by the state operating within through the instrumental paths of the policy actions key that's above. Now they'll also try to say that their burial solves however one with their evidence is not in constant debates you shouldn't weigh the burial solves argument next. It probably means that the app's impacts are not unique. It's already been solved for, and it also probably means that the impacts the status quo is going to be able to solve back. There's no reason why I should weigh these arguments right now. There's zero reason to vote affirmative. Debates akin to a black hole of activism actions only gets deactivated and transformed here. It never makes it this social, indicating that they have the wrong form for political management. Means they can never solve for anything outside of the space, which is key for you to vote for them. Otherwise, you vote negative on presumption. Next, the one you see is the same system of the status quo. They attempt to universalize stuff. This purifying act inevitably fails, does nothing but uphold current dominant structure, criticizing the system while trying to make it better, only allows for the politics of self-congratulation. We never change anything but about ourselves. Those politics remain the same. The only political passivity is first. Actually, space that's Beaujard 05. Is even the politics no longer think that evil politics are meant to be people, individuals, souls, collective manifestations, all forms that intake profit. Power here occurs. The share of power on itself, the power. It was arbitrary. The corresponding to the fact that they came from everywhere. In a sense, reduction how do you want power? All you can do is exercise that. Like you're not, when you get rid of a bit of power, it's not the each one was considered not. It does not justify itself. The only solution was the restoration thing occurs. Shared in the whole society will. Then the voted few, the politicians who themselves will only be done with the idea to give it away. The great danger of politicians, they're human beings and compete to take power. They should do it and not want it. This is also true by the fact that they've read this at multiple tournaments and they haven't changed the space at all. They never changed their own actions. They just continue to run the same type of argument and act the same way. If they've run this like multiple times, there probably should have been some sort of out-around solvency, and they concede in the first cross because there isn't this out-around. Doesn't matter. All that matters is the debate space. Debate space still hasn't changed. Now. The affirmative here is the violence of the system, so they try to chase away their shadows, hiding their heads in their theories. Modern debate is entirely written with their hopes of ontological hygiene of community purity and become the goal, ignoring the fact that this, in fact, is the problem. Just because you can no longer speak evil does not mean that evil is gone and dead. Instead, evil has disappeared, but it has disappeared into everything, forming the underside of all social and modern relations. The more ideally utopic world becomes, the more volatile and exposed it becomes. That's Beaujard 93. That's the evidence that was read. You can cross by that evidence from the Dare Decay. It shows how evil has gotten everywhere. Evil. Whenever we try to destroy evil, it just becomes a ghost, which my partner will handle more in the 1 and R. Now, you can also extend our interpretation. The affirmative must defend and run a path to topical policy action. They don't meet this interpretation because they lack a definitive policy course of action through the affirmation of the resolution, and their counter-interpretation is arbitrary. You probably should prefer our role of balance. The only our interpretation that our framework is the only answer their role of balance because theirs is self-serving. It's only going to help them win. You should prefer something that gives both sides a chance to compete. Two, if we prove that they don't solve the root cause of their impacts, it means you probably shouldn't weigh their role of ballot. That means they probably don't solve the role of ballot anyway, which is true with like the Dare Decay, which my partner will talk about. They don't need me. And they try to, yeah, let's go to the line a little better. All their arguments about fairness and different types of like make them submit and ground arguments. We don't do that. All we say is that the only way to actually solve back is through using the state. That's the Beaujard evidence. They say that their education from creativity. You can extend the education argument that all it creates is that all their narrative and trying to enforce it in the space just goes with another collection of multiple narratives. The only way to actually solve back for this type of information overload is to resist. Now by submitting. Now this type of passivity is not just giving up. This type of passivity allows for education to destroy itself and come back on. They don't answer this education argument correctly because we're the only ones who control the real internal linked education. Now they say the real argument, our real argument is bad. However, their answer really doesn't make sense. Just since the Beaujard doesn't apply, they don't answer the actual like internal warrants of the politicizing of the self. We can't mobilize any sort of education. We can't mobilize the type of terms they want with the burial argument. It never gets mobilized. It means they can't solve. Beaujard evidence probably answers also their idea of like trying to use the academy to solve back to these things. Like the thing about the reason what their burial thing was able to solve for, like with their evidence, is talking about like them still getting politics on their side and co-opting it. Like they never like went fully out of the state. Like whenever you go fully outside the state, 'cause they still were doing political movements. Like that's what it says literally within the evidence. So there's no way that they can solve without having any recognition from the state. That's how they get destroyed and stamped out. Next. They say topical plane, will probably link to, however, the topical plane is what actually works within the state. It works within the system and utilize debate as the game that it is in order to create the better model of structure to answer back the current abuses of power. That the only way we can actually resist the system is resisting from within. Anytime a chance we try to resist from outside of it, we are stamped out and destroyed. So if they're reading a topical policy that still tackle their issues, so they still have some sort of topical link that shows that they can still solve for femininity debate, it's still going to be able to solve back for all their impacts and attack the state. They can read like fem critiques with a certain type of affirmative reason why we should remove military presence for feminist reasons. It's still going to be able to solve back the debate. And they can also make arguments about why it's important for the space. That's what's going to be the best way to solve back. And they also have the negative to do it too. So, oh, yeah, cross.
How does any debate round access the state?
Like that's the fiat argument. Like we're working within the state by pretending to be the state. That's the political theater arguments that I talk about.
Okay, so fiat good.
Like we're not saying it's necessarily good. We're saying it's necessary.
Why is it necessary?
Because anything else just gets stamped out, like nothing else.
Who's stamping it out?
The state.
Where is the state in this round?
That's the debate community.
Why is the debate community deemed as the state?
Because it's still the same power structure. The Beaujard 83 evidence talks about like the mobilization of the masses. Like we can't mobilize the masses.
How have we been stamped out?
Your whole 1AC proves that like nothing changes. Like as hard as you try, nothing changes. Like when we act outside the system and try to like be like, fuck you system, we can do this better without you, nothing ever gets done. But when you act within the system and try to create like better alternatives within it and not trying to completely resist it, trying to be like, fuck this, we'll do something completely different, these other alternatives are so much better, you're just going to be like, no, we're never going to vote for you.
Okay, you just said you have to completely resist the system, but you're also saying you have to work within the system. Which one is it?
No, I'm saying you try to completely resist the system where you get stamped out.
How are we completely resisting the system if we are in the system right now?
No, like, that's not what you're doing though. You're saying like, fuck debate, fuck any rule of it.
Are we in the debate space right now?
Yeah.
Are we resisting the system within the debate space, but also in the state?
Not correctly.
How are we not correct?
Because you're saying like, all these issues are bad. You're not like trying to like model the actual system. We model the system.
How do you model the system?
I mean, we're telling you should model the system. I'm not half. But like the way I would argue.
You just said you model the system. How should we have performed the 1AC to model the system?
Write a topical plan.
What does that do?
Because you can say like, hey, we have a lot of issues with not allowing for like fem arguments to exist on the app, so we probably should do something about that, or the space is bad. But you can use the topical action in order to create that resistance.
Does that not feed energy into the mass?
That's the point. Like you have to get some, like, you can't mobilize the masses by like a full resistance.
Wouldn't a topical version of the affirmative, which you're asking us to do, also be full resistance? I don't understand.
No. Because
How
again,
not?
you're still working within the
How
structures
is
of
reading a
debate.
topical plan and saying we're going to solve this, not put energy into the system? I think that puts more energy than RF does.
Yeah, you're hiding within the state. That's what's
No,
important.
you are asking us to put energy into the system to link us into your other K.
Not really. Like you still link the other K. Just, no,
Okay,
you link
that's
the
fine. I got
K anyway.
Okay,
like,
it's fine. I got
that has nothing
questions.
to do with
I
it.
have
just, like,
questions.
vote
I
for it.
have questions.
Christian.
You say that you address the root cause argument. What is the root cause of the app?
The root cause? That's the Derrida argument that my partner.
Yeah, sure. Can you explain the root cause for me real quick?
It's the Derrida argument.
Can you explain it, please?
I mean, I only want to answer things that are about my 2 and C. So.
Can you please explain to me what the root cause argument
We
is?
don't
Yes,
get cross-access with
the root cause is like the patriarchy that exists. You don't solve for that just by like saying we bury this issue. You never tackle it, you never interrogate it. You never interrogate like the root cause of patriarchy, which is like things like the logic of domination, other things like that. You probably could find reasons why capitalism also is a reason of that. Like, that's the ghost argument.
Okay, that's fine.